All right, so this is the 3 times a week meeting of the CSI implementation group for the Kubernetes storage SIG. So first thing on the agenda today is you'll notice that I switched from Hangouts to Zoom. The reason for this change was one, it's easier to record, and two, when I am out next week, I don't want you guys to have trouble with Hangouts and the Zoom. I think Brad has the credentials and everything, so it shouldn't be an issue.
Thank you.
Moving on from that, Luis, I see you have a item about the CSI libraries.
Yes. So just continuing what we ended up last time, which is one of the goals that I have on the list, which is having a mock driver for our code, and also at the same time having a mock CO for writing drivers. So one of the things that I looked at was we could just auto-generate it, just like we auto-generate the Golang code from the protocol buffers. We could just auto-generate the mock driver from the interface using Google Mocks, and then that's all auto-generated, and then it's done. So now that doesn't mean that can be used for like installations with a null driver or something like that. That needs code, but just for unit tests may be good enough, right? Mm-hmm. And then as we go forward, we can talk about how is it that we write a null or a simple driver. I think we can push that off, right? And then we can just start using Google Mocks for that stuff. And the cool thing is that code's auto-generated, so it's well tested, and it should be easy to use. So that could be fast. Second thing is the Google Mock client. That's good for driver developers. And again, this is the key is for unit tests. Let's just look at that. What commitment. Welcome.
Jan, it's Friday evening. Hello. What are you doing?
You should be out in the town.
I'm cooking my dinner, basically.
Well, thanks for showing up. You don't have to show up on Friday evenings if you don't want to. No big deal.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just going through some of the list there in the document that we have. So the CO client, what I would like to propose is probably just maybe continue discussion of how simple do we want it. I think that for this little repo that we're talking about, again, we go back to simplicity, and I think the simplicity is unit tests, right? Now, if somebody wants more, we can always punt them and say, go to the CSC, EMC, and things like that, like if you want to use that tool. But I think for simplicity, just to keep it as simple as possible, we can just say, here's a set of client that is meant to be pulled into unit tests to unit test your code.
Okay.
And that's it. Like, it doesn't do anything. It's not a command line program. It's not anything like that. It's just a set of libraries you pull in. You can say, just like you do HTTP test for RPC testing in Golang, you can create like a CSI test, and then you can call your own stuff. It creates like a...
So it's a Golang unit test library, and when you run it, it just hits your plugin.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's it. That doesn't, like, bare bones stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But enough to get people started, and then they say, oh, we need more than this, and then they can come back to the community and say, we would like to add this, or they can go back to something else. But I think it's just a good bare bones thing, right? Mm-hmm. Just my opinion. I wanted to see what yours thought.
It seems reasonable to me. I say if you want to pursue this, do it out of tree in your own personal repo, and then once it's ready, propose it in the CSI meeting, and here's we've got these mock clients and mock servers. I've made them as non-opinionated and as slim and tiny as possible. They're pretty much useful for X, Y, and Z. What do folks think? And I think it's going to go over fairly well. I remember the last time something similar was proposed by Andrew from Dell EMC. It was rejected because it was a huge library that was doing a lot of things, not just a very slim interface in front, or a module in front of the CSI interface.
Okay.
So if we can come up with something slimmer and tinier, that would be perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's my goal. And again, I think that this is just the beginning. So this would pull in community. I'm not saying that this is it. This is the way it's going to be forever.
Yeah.
Pull in the community and see what they think, and we'll go from there. This is just a baby step.
And you probably want to talk to Andrew too, since he has experience doing this in the past, and he's very interested in this area as well.
Okay, thank you.
My assumption was we would probably, whatever libraries or whatever code we use to come up with the Kubernetes libraries, we'd probably end up just chopping that up into smaller pieces for library, right?
That's what I'm thinking. And it sounds like what Luis is planning is pretty much that. He's going to develop it in his own repo for his own personal testing. And then once it becomes viable, kind of clean it up and then propose it to the CSI repo.
Is that okay with you guys? I just want to make sure it's okay with the rest of the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely okay. I would echo what Saad said earlier. A lot of this stuff is already done, albeit probably way more than what we need. So possibly check with Andrew or check with what's already there. I'll look into what's already there and see if how reusable it is, and I can let you know.
It's tricky though, right? Because there has been a library that's proposed. We said no to putting it in the main repo. We're going to have a reason why this one should go in over top of that other one.
Yeah,
right?
Are we talking about something to go in the main repo, or are we just talking about a tool that's available that anybody can use?
It would start off as a tool in a separate repo, I guess, Luis's own repo, but then it would be proposed back to the CSI main repo. And to answer your question, Brad, why this tool instead of the one that was originally proposed? The one that was originally proposed was, I think, one, a little bit early, and two, it was huge, and it was, I think, doing more than just acting as a shim for acting like a stub for a server and a client. I think it was like a full-blown library where you could have like modules plugged in and have potentially multiple CSI plugins be implemented. It's really cool, but it was kind of way overkill for the scope of that.
Right. So I agree. What I'm saying is that the question is going to come up, and we're going to have to answer the question. And to me, the key reason, and I don't know if this is true or not, and I mean, I know that all the other reasons about the bulk and, too much function there that we didn't need. But to me, like, the main reason that thing was rejected is because it was done somewhat in the dark, right, without the participation of any other community members.
I mean, I guess that's part of it too. Like when somebody writes a big piece of code and kind of throws it over the wall, it always comes off as like, whoa.
Yeah. Everybody walks at it. It could be the best thing in the world. Maybe there's all sorts of, useful functionality in there that, even though it's big and bulky. But so all that to say is, like, I would, if you wanted to get the politics maybe a little cleaner on this, is like we do the implementation for our library and then present the pieces that we have as like, hey, we want community feedback on this stuff. What do you guys think? And, kind of have a vetting process for it as we put it in, right? And that involves everybody, right? And then it's harder for them to say that we
you ease it in and make sure everybody gets their opinion heard. And
exactly. I'm thinking what we'll come out with will be something great. We just want to give people like 1 second to, feedback on it.
Yeah. And in fact, I think a good place to start might be to look at the stuff that Andrew proposed, and then consider taking that and then slimming it down and figuring out what you can do to make that like the bare minimum that'll be required for a volume plugin.
Yeah, I can take a look at the client side. The driver side is super simple because it's just Google Mocks and just spits that out. Nice. But the client side is where I may look at the EMC code and work with Andrew and just say, I would like to make a simple unit test client library. It should be one file out of this, right? And then I'll probably propose it just to you guys again on Monday and talk to Vlad, and you guys point me to the right person, and we can just continue from there.
Okay. the other thing, were you done, Louis?
Yeah, I'm all set. Thank you.
The one thing before you go on vacation, Saad, that I'd like to pin down is are you in next week at all, or you
I'll be here Monday, Tuesday, and then I'm out.
Okay. No, because November is like right around the corner, and we need to kind of start doing. So, is there a plan for to pin down some kind of version for CSI so we can start developing against it, or what? Proceed with that?
So right now, the plan for CSI is to not pin a version until we actually have alphas. So we're kind of working against a moving target. We're working against head of the CSI spec repo. It is in flux, which means we're going to kind of have to. So we'll have to pick up a version, code against it, and then pick it up and make any pick up the new version, make any modifications that we need, and continuously do that until we get to alpha.
Do you have any idea which version you want to pick today and to start?
Just grab ahead right now, whatever's ahead, and start coding against it, and then monitor the changes that go in. Maybe like every week, see what's new, and pick it up and rebase. I know it's going to be hell, but we're literally developing two projects at the same time in parallel. And it comes with the territory.
Well, the CSI changes are like they spend 2 meetings talking about one method call. Yeah, one field and one method call.
So yeah, it's going to be painful, but let's just grab the current head version, develop against that, and then just continuously rebase maybe every week until we get to alpha. And then hopefully all the changes that we really care about are settled down, and we'll pin that and cut it as 0.1. And so then our alpha ships with 0.1, and then we can go from there.
Okay, so because what I'm planning is as soon as next week is to start looking into doing the plugin that we talked about, the CSI plugin, which will be a volume plugin that lives in tree.
Yep.
So I'll start looking at that code and kind of sketch it out.
Okay.
Because I think that should work without any of the other architectural kind of refactoring that's going to go in.
Yep.
And then when we get there, we could use that.
Yep. You gotta just get the skeleton in, and then stub out the pieces that are missing, and then we'll come in and fill those in.
Okay. This is where the driver comes in so handy in unit tests.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the thing is,
you need the API.
I need the API, but they're from the work that Andrew's been doing, there are actual drivers in existence, and the one I pointed out in the document is the one for the local volume, which you can run right now against your local drive as a device. So that's probably what I'll be using to validate a lot of this. And I'll look to see in what he has, if they're, because I think he had mentioned from talking to him that he has test harnesses and mocks and stuff. So I'll see what he actually has, if it's anything we can use right away, or if not, use Lewis's idea to, pare down what's there and come up with something that's useful for testing.
Seems reasonable to me. Okay, so the last item on the agenda is by Jan. He says, attach volume API prototype. I need this. I'm working on it. I'm going to work over the weekend and see if I could get something out by Monday. So that's unblocked. Stay tuned for that.
Yeah, in the worst case, I can sketch something by myself.
Okay.
Be that difficult.
Yeah, I mean, you could have a mock version that you're working against, and then once the real version is checked in, then walk out.
Okay.
How different do you foresee that attach API will be from what we have right now?
I think the only thing that's going to be different is the conditions bit needs to be swapped out. But the spec part of it is going to be defined. The status part is going to change. And I'll try to update the doc first today so that you guys can start taking a look at that, and then get some code, get a PR out with that code in there.
I would like to start designing the controller, the external controller, on Monday.
Okay.
I guess it will take 12 days to get the basic infrastructure running. After that, the API object will be useful.
Yep. Makes sense.
Hi guys, sorry, got delayed, got stuck in another meeting. Sorry about that.
No worries. So we're recording these meetings now. I'm going to publish them. I messed up the recording on the last one, but I'll try to be consistent about it going forward. So if anybody misses a meeting for any reason, don't worry about it. I'll post the video later.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else we want to discuss?
Just a quick question. So just like Vlad said, we have like about 4 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're all go moving in parallel.
Mm-hmm.
So
how do we make sure that we
yeah, I mean, just from a project planning point of view, it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
And we should have some type of milestone, I
Yeah.
think, that we shoot for, so that it's before November 22nd.
Yep.
I was thinking like maybe November 10th. I think it's a Friday.
November 10th,
Yeah, 10th.
is yeah.
So
How
November
about-
10th,
Okay, so what are you saying for November 10th?
we have something. Don't know what it is, but it's a good milestone that gives a week and a half to react to it, right?
Okay.
And then I'm not saying today we decide what to do for November 10th, but I think November 10th we should do something. It should be a good milestone for us.
Okay.
I think we should
Determine
have,
if we're doing well or doing bad.
I think we should have something before that. If we start putting down code, you know, in the next couple of weeks, hopefully way before that, because if we wait till then we don't have a lot of time to react. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's 3 weeks away. So maybe November 3rd.
Okay.
November 3rd.
That's
But you're gonna be away like
Yeah,
a
I'm
week
going to
and
be
a half of it.
away. You guys could, if you could do it without me, that's fine. Otherwise, we could wait that following week.
I think part of what's going to determine what gets done is not to put pressure on your side is the architectural document. I
Yeah.
mean, I have a pretty good idea of what needs to be done for the simple fact that, you know, the API I'll be coding against is already there,
Yep.
both from the in-tree volume API and the Go CSI.
Yep.
But there, you know, tons of other components. Now, I think as a group, we need to decide whether or not all of these components that appeared in your original document, are they going to be part of the final product in November, or are we going to take a gradual approach where
Exactly
we
right.
get to a working piece of code and then gradually refactor it and bring in the additional components? Because we could do something that works, and that's kind of half in tree, and still use an API driver, and then eventually bring in the other components such as the
Yeah.
external provisioner, et cetera, et cetera.
So the November 22 deadline is absolutely critical for the components that are going to be in tree, and that's going to be the volume plugin itself. That includes the API and business logic, the end-to-end tests, and possibly the kubelet device registration. Though if we don't get that in, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Everything else we can fit in.
So definitely, the piece I'm working on is definitely got to be in November.
It's got to be in by November 22,
Okay,
right?
awesome.
Everything else technically
Some
doesn't.
pressure is on me.
Yes. I mean,
And the end-to-end test, what would that mean without a driver?
that's a good point.
Well, we have drivers.
We do have some drivers from EMC we can pull in, right?
But if the external provisioner and the external attacher are not necessarily ready, but actually you're right. You could. You could test against one of the drivers that's already available.
Right.
But then the problem would be, how would you deploy that in an E2E test system?
I think those are the problems that we may have to kick down the road for a beta version, because like you said, I think primarily what we should do is get something that proves that what we're talking about is doable.
Yeah.
And that can be done via the volume plugin.
Yeah.
Writing a driver seems to be a simpler task than what are you guys signed up for, right? So I think I'll try to make it ready by the time. I'm also getting some help inside Diamante, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Chakri, like what I'm thinking is, in order for the driver to actually work with what we're going to have, you're going to need the external attacher and provisioner done at the same time.
Yeah.
The whole infrastructure needs to be done for that.
Yeah.
Maybe for November 22nd, what we're saying is internal only work to Kubernetes and the unit tests with it, and that's it.
Okay. And no E2E tests.
And not to end-to-end, because we don't have the end-to-end framework yet.
Right.
And then tests come as all the components start rolling in.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I think if we relieve that pressure, then we may be able to, the design might come up even better.
Yeah. Okay, let's do that then. Our ultimate deadline is November 22. Each one of us has a component that is assigned to us. Let's make sure that that component is code complete by November 22. We don't have to do the convergence by November 22. We use the stabilization time to do the convergence.
Okay.
And then also the end-to-end tests.
Okay.
So we have to have it merged in tree by the 22nd.
Correct.
That means that that all the code has to be vetted and working together by the 22nd.
All the code has to be not necessarily working and vetted, because you have the stabilization period technically to.
That's cheating.
Yes, it is.
I think that, and I know this is punting it, but trying to get something that's soon and works, it's important, and that's why I'm proposing that. Just like Brad just says, like, it's not the 22nd our deadline. It's probably a week before that, so we can send the code up to get it reviewed, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so to do that, we need a very stable system to be able to show that this system works and is testable, right?
Yeah.
And that probably is going to get moved into the code internally, and at the same time we work on external things. But I'm proposing, and I'm going to get your opinion, is that the whole infrastructure together, what you have designed, should probably be for 110, right? And for end-to-end tests and everything. I think for now, we start moving things in, which are all the internal things, parts of Kubernetes, and it's unit tests and anything that goes with it internally. We can start using that as we continue working. And probably, just like Vlad said, it may actually turn out being better because we start getting more experience with it as we go forward. It's just an opinion.
How about this? Let's go through the list of components that we have that we must deliver, and let's set some deadlines for each one of those components. Yep. So let's start with the most critical component, which is the API.
We got 3 minutes, just so you know.
All right, well, let's bundle them together. We've got the internal volume plugin, including API and the business logic. Vlad, do you think it would be reasonable, November 10th would be a reasonable deadline to have the code ready and in a state where it's all it needs is to be reviewed and checked in?
Yeah, actually, my plan is to start a PR as soon as possible and start putting code in there.
Okay.
And start getting eyeballs and as soon as possible.
Okay. So
because if it goes like anything that was done against the code tree, it's gonna take a while to get things moving anyway.
So then maybe we can even get the code merged by November 10th, possibly.
Possibly. What I'll probably do, and it's not probably, but I'll ping you Monday just to kind of have a design revision.
Yep.
Before I start putting code down, just to make sure we're syncing up and I understand exactly what.
Yeah. Feel free to set a one-off meeting with me if you need.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then as soon that happens and I'm clear, I'm gonna start a PR as early as possible, and start getting eyeballs on it as soon as possible.
Okay. Second component is the external provisioner. Brad, what do you think a comfortable timeline for you is?
I mean, I've got the easy one, right? It's out of tree, so
Yeah.
I'm not killed by
You're not on any deadline technically, and the other nice thing is that most of the external provisioner code already exists.
Yeah, I mean, it's a couple weeks.
November 10, can we pin that as a date where you have some working prototype somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, it's all gonna. Yeah, I could have something to show by then.
Okay.
But I won't have a CSI driver to hook it to.
That's fine. Let's just have like a working piece of code that theoretically works by November 10th.
Okay.
That's the external provisioner. External attacher, Jan, I think that's going to be one of the biggest pieces of work. What do you feel is a comfortable deadline to have code that's ready to be used?
3 weeks sounds reasonable as long as I have the design and API.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. So let's say November 10th, given I give you the design and API in time.
Yeah, it can change, of course. The design always changes, but
yes. Okay, and then finally, we have the sample volume drivers. Chakri, do you think you could have some of those ready by November 10th as well?
Yeah, I'll try to get one, at least one of them. NFS, ISC is one of them.
Okay, so then what we can say is by November 10th, we'll have all the basic components theoretically ready to test with each other. And then we can, as Luis proposed, spend a week and a half, one, getting these the critical components merged, code reviewed and merged, and two, starting the integration testing. And the integration testing can run into the stabilization period after code freeze, but we'll get it started early. So if there's any big architectural issues, we'll hopefully find them early. And so, Luis, what this means for you is the end-to-end tests, you can start writing them, but they probably won't be relevant until after November 10th.
I also have the YAML.
Right. You have the glue that puts it all together.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're going to have that ready by November 10th then, because we would start integration testing after November 10th. Would that be possible?
It all depends. Yeah, I mean, that's just running a YAML file, but I mean, It all depends on the infrastructure that we want to have for that date.
Yep.
So as we continue in our meetings, we'll start deciding, and then we'll be rock solid and say, this is what we're going to have for that date. Yep. We'll create something.
So right now, our fuzzy preliminary date is all the components should be ready for testing by November 10th.
Yeah.
And then as we approach that date, we can revise and pull it in, push it out if we need to. And then once the components are all ready, then we start integration testing and go from there.
Yeah, so that takes me to another question. The work that Chakri is doing is what repos is that going to be in?
I believe it's going to be an external, his own personal repo.
His own personal repo, okay. That's fine.
Yeah, and then we can, then we can decide like each volume plugin that he has one by one where it should go.
Okay.
Like Flex one can go into the external storage repo and so on and so forth.
And I'm working also on my own CSI plugin also. So
yeah.
At the same time.
I have a CSI-volumes organization. I figured I'd snipe it before anybody else picked it up. You guys are welcome. I mean, I can add all of y'all there. I would have no, corporate affiliation or anything else. It could just be us.
Yeah, can you add me? Can I put my repo there for the mock stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Could you add me to as a repo guy or whatever?
Is it CSI-volumes?
Yep.
Do you want to throw K8S in there somewhere? Or Kubernetes to make it?
If you want a KAS repo.
Yeah, I was thinking like Kubernetes-CSI or something like that.
Okay. And then
use that as our collaboration point.
Okay.
Do you want to call them volumes or plugins? I think there might be a good rationale for calling volumes. I just want to know.
I think I was calling them drivers.
Yeah,
it just disambiguates from the in-tree volume plugins.
Yeah.
I think it's just a repo location now. We can always change it.
Do Kubernetes dash CSI. Own that. And then you could create sub repos underneath there, one for drivers, one for mocks, one for whatever else you need.
Okay.
And Brad, just send me that if you can today, and then I'm going to work on that mock stuff, see if I can have it done by Monday.
Okay, I'm going to put y'all as administrators on this too.
Okay.
Sweet. Let's start kicking everybody else. Yeah, I think that's cool. I think we'll work on that repo. I think that's excellent. You know what the really nice thing about it is that it is not affiliated. It's affiliated with the community.
Yeah.
It's always good. So.
Yeah, that's why I want to stick Kubernetes in there, so then we can say it's ours. If anybody comes in and complains, it's it's going to really have anything to complain about.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We are 5 minutes over. Does anybody have anything else they want to discuss?
Just one quick one. The current state of the design doc is.
Yes.
I haven't looked at it in a couple of days. Do you plan to do any major additional changes, or is it?
I'm going to go through it. I'm going to modify. So architecturally, there's going to be no major changes. What I'm going to do is fix up the attach volume object with especially the status part of it. The feedback that I got was initially consider using conditions. And then the feedback I got was don't use conditions because that encodes state machine information. Use just a field. And then when I was talking to Jan and Brad last week, they pointed out, well, how do you surface errors back to the attacher? And I was talking to the API folks over here, Eric Toon and Tim Hawkins, and they said they would be okay with having a field that is specifically for capturing errors. So I'm going to add that into the status field as well. And so once that's nailed down, the rest of the doc is a matter of going in and, the other big component I need to clean up is the naming of the attach provisioner. Right now, I think we just left it as it's a string, and that's fine, but I want to kind of see if we can put in a definition around what it's actually going to be, something like com.organization. Something, and that way it could be consistent between CSI and the name of the attacher. That's kind of fit and finish stuff. It's not really, we could even do that in beta if we need to, but nothing else should change. I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, awesome. All right.
So, and I'm also going to take that doc. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to update the attach volume. I'm going to address any of the open comments there. Then I'm going to freeze the doc and I'm going to throw it into the community repo. And then create an API PR off of that.
Okay.
What's your guys' GitHubs? I know Saad, I know Jan. Vlad, what's yours?
The same as the name in the screen right here, Vladimir Vision, no space.
It's also linked on the first day.
On the Tuesday.
In the notes.
Okay. Oh, Tuesday in the notes. Okay, thanks.
All right, cool. Anything else?
That's it.
We're all good.
All right, guys. Have a good weekend. Enjoy your Friday, and let's do this.
All right. Take care, guys.
Hey, guys.
Bye-bye.